Take a talented cast, make almost all of their characters deeply flawed, and then throw in some tense, mysterious drama, and you've got the new Peacock series, Apples Never Fall. This stars Sam Neill, Annette Bening, Alison Brie, and Jake Lacy. So, will you need to put this one on your binge list? Former tennis coaches Stan and Joy Delaney have sold their successful tennis academy and are ready to start what should be the golden years of their lives. While they look forward to spending time with their 4 adult children, everything changes when a wounded young woman knocks on their door. But when Joy suddenly disappears, her children are forced to re-examine their parents' so-called perfect marriage as their family's darkest secrets begin to surface. So this is a 7-episode season with every episode but the first focusing on one character and how their present and past play into the current circumstances. Now, the pace for the show is driving, but it's patient. It's a slow burn in the sense that details and clues are eked out in tiny increments, but also don't read into the phrase of slow burn and think boring. This is anything but that. The Delaney family looks to be picture perfect on the outside, but when the layers are peeled away, we're shown the large level of dysfunction that has existed for a very long time. And because the central plot revolves around the disappearance of Joy, who's played by Annette Bening, there's a large mystery that develops, with more than one character coming across as blameworthy. The drama here is very high, but not melodramatic. And thanks to the wildly different personalities of each of the adult siblings, we get to witness some incredible verbal sparring, complete with scathing daggers just dipped in truth and vehemence. The interactions, they're wonderful, especially because so many different aspects of relationships are examined throughout the show. We get to witness the evolution of the parents' marriage, the ups, downs, struggles, and successes, leading to how they function in the present. And then each sibling has their own relational woes or challenges, influenced by their upbringing and then directed by their current choices. Do they act out and mask their frustration with family by taking it out on their partner? Or do they retreat into themselves, shunning any sort of camaraderie? Maybe they use the opportunity to examine shortcomings and then thrive within a relationship. But each of the 4 get under the microscope when it comes to their relational health. And then, probably very obviously, the show also examines the family unit as a whole, which nicely adds the complication of a non-family visitor to the mix. Now, for almost all of the performances, I was engaged and clicking with the characters. But for some reason, there's 2 detectives that are featured here that they just weren't working for me. I don't know if it's because they come across as too nonchalant, or maybe it's unseasoned, like they're both newbies and are kind of making it up as they go along. And the actors are fine, but the way they're directed to form their performances, it just left me with the impression that they were more incompetent than they actually were. Now, I like that the show sets up certain storylines to misdirect us within the mystery. I mean, I still think you'll guess what the solution is before the reveal, but it didn't ruin the outcome for me. And for a lot of it, I was wavering back and forth between a couple of characters. And although I did guess correctly at the outcome, the motive and justification, those were complete surprises. Now, I mentioned at the start how just about every character is deeply flawed, and that helps to increase the intensity of the drama, as well as create visceral responses to certain characters. Now, Jake Lacy is an overachieving son. He's hell-bent on not being like his father, but really being more like him in certain ways than he'd like to admit. I loved watching him get flustered in situations, most of which were completely out of his control to begin with, but his desire to influence the outcome, that was fun. Alison Brie is a free-spirited daughter with wishy-washy ideas and commitments. She's a feeler, and that does help to make her both sympathetic and endearing, but also it was hard to feel sorry for her at times because she became a victim of her own short-sighted actions. Now, Brie's wonderful in the role, being understated but very dynamic. Essie Randalls is excellent as the other daughter. She's very responsible and comes across as controlling, but that also can lead to her disappointments and failings. Now, I enjoyed the complications her character brings to the storyline, causing the narrative to grow and shift in unexpected ways. And then there's Connor Merrigan Turner, playing the second son. Now, he's the quiet and reserved thinker of the siblings, often fallen into the background when surrounded by the larger personalities of the other kids. Now, for me, he was my favorite sibling. While showcasing a large lack of self-confidence and really not finding his own voice, he did feel the most genuine when it came to how he interacted with everybody. Now, Sam Neill has a tough role of being an overachieving and pressuring father. someone who's got massive expectations for his kids and then doesn't accept disappointment. But Neill has to balance that with also some softness or likability. I mean, he gets to showcase both, but the harsher edge is typically more prominent in the story. Now, one huge annoyance for me was how he spoke. Neill's doing his very best to cover his accent and portray an American voice, but it comes across as insanely gravelly, like he really just needs to cough or has something caught in his throat, because all we get, it's just a raspy, gruff mumbling that can sometimes be difficult to understand. I mean, he's still powerful in his performance, but that vocal execution could have used some more work. Now, when the show started, I hated pretty much every one of the characters. They felt entitled, snobbish, and rude, not only to each other, but to most anybody they came into contact with. But just because I hated them doesn't mean I wasn't digging the story. And by the end of the first episode, I was fully engaged in the mystery, with my engagement with the cast growing more and more across each episode. And I think that says something about the actors, to be able to craft such off-putting personas that still keep me captivated by their interactions. They did a fantastic job. Now, I really appreciate that this is a limited series. The story concludes after 7 episodes and fully wraps up, providing us with answers and resolutions. Now, I think that once you start binging, you're going to get hooked on the drama and the mystery. And even if you do figure it all out before the reveal, the emotional roller coaster that we're taken on with the characters makes the ride worth it. So overall, Apples Never Fall showcases powerful performances that capture flawed personalities exacerbated by extreme circumstances. The patient storytelling slowly draws the audience in, so by the end, they're gripped in suspenseful intrigue. While the reveal may be more obvious than it should be, and Sam Neill's attempt at masking his accent results in scratchy mumbles, the story delivers both relational dramatics and tense mystery. You may not like the characters, but they do an excellent job at crafting personas that are impossible to ignore. There's sex, tiny bit of nudity, a lot of profanity, and some violence. I give Apples Never Fall 4 out of 5 couches. So, have you seen any dramas lately that are just worth watching? I'd love to hear about them in the comments below. If you enjoyed this review, please give it a like. Also, don't forget to share and subscribe. I'm Chris. This is Movies and Munchies. Thanks for couching with me.